The Magicians podcast is brought to you in proud association with the Magic Circle, Alakazam Magic, and Gigio.
I want him to look good. I want him to look as good as he can look. I hate when he looks bad. When something goes wrong or when something is not as good as it should be. I hate that. I want, people to see him in his best light all the time.
Well, friends, welcome to the Magicians podcast with me, Alan Hudson. Yes, a little bit different this week. By the way, just before we go into the podcast with Homer, do us a favour. If you haven't done it already, give us a little review on the iTunes or your app. I don't know what he says, but it's always shit like that, isn't it, at the start? Anyway, let's start by finding out what our friend Young is doing in a section that we like to call Young, What's Going On? So let's go over now. Young, what's going on? Did you like that?
I'm in America. Yeah, that was very funny. I'm glad we did that. Yeah, what's going on? I'm still in America. I've had an amazing week. As I sort of mentioned last week, I went and recorded an interview with David Copperfield. We could talk all about that if you like.
I think we should, yeah. I mean, basically, we just had a quick chat and you said, what's going on? And I said, nothing compared to what you've been doing. So really, I should be asking you that. So that's what we're doing now. First of all, can I just say a Teller interview? Absolutely brilliant. One of the best ones.
Yeah. Amazing. Also, one of the biggest responses we've ever had on social media to that as well. People absolutely love it. It's been shared, lots of likes, lots of comments, lots of emails and things. So yeah, thank you to everyone who downloaded it last week. I don't say that enough, actually. I just want to obviously just say thank you so much to everyone listening and for your enthusiasm and for your, the way you talk about it, everything. It means a great deal to me. I spend a lot of time making these and the guests obviously give up all of their own thoughts and ideas, and then every week Hudson checks in on Skype. So yeah,
do you know what? I can always tell the best interviews, right? Is because those are the ones where literally no one messages me and says, I enjoyed your bit this week. So there's a couple where people go, yeah, it's a good bit, that bit. And then, but when it's one like Teller, something like that, literally no one, because the interview was so good. Although I have to say, after listening to him talk about the Magic Circle, I'm dropping out of the run for presidency.
That's the end of your run? Are you too embarrassed?
Yeah, that's it. It's over. That was harsh, wasn't it? Did you think?
It was honest though, wasn't it?
Interesting. Yeah, really interesting. And and there was loads of great bits in that. But yeah, that bit about the Magic Circle. I mean, if you haven't heard it, then go back and listen to Teller's bit. He talks about the Magic Circle in a way that I've not really heard that many people talk about it in that way. Yeah.
Well, I think people sometimes are a bit scared to talk about it. They don't want to upset anyone, but he doesn't care, does he? Why would he? He's Teller of Penn and Teller. But anyway, what do you think, Hudson? What do you think?
I thought it made for a good podcast. That's what I thought.
It really did, didn't it?
Yeah, brilliant. And speaking of podcasts, so I've literally not spoke to you since you went to interview David Copperfield, and you're in America right now, and you went across, and I said you did the interview, and then the next day you sent me a text going, Hudson, that was amazing. Yeah. And I said, don't tell me on the podcast. So I've literally not spoke to you since. So tell me all about it. What happened? Did you do it? You did it in his warehouse, am I right?
Yeah, so the warehouse and museum where obviously he stores all of his own props, and then also it's where he keeps all of his amazing historical collection. I'm sure you guys all know. He's got all of Houdini's stuff, and he's got basically every magician in history. He's got everything there. It's the most incredible collection in the world of magic history. So he's also, though, I don't know if you know this, I found this out afterwards. Chris Kenner told me. Do you know that he's recently bought a plane? Do you know this?
No, I did not know that.
So he's recently bought the private jet of all private jets, and it's stored in a hangar in Vegas. And apparently, we nearly recorded there, which would have been incredible. But apparently, Chris Kenner said, "Oh, we were going to do it there," and then suddenly I realised the acoustics are very bad because it's a hangar.
Right, yeah, of course.
So he said, "Oh, we thought it'd be better to do it at the museum." So
what I want to know, right, is what was it like the first moment when you went up to him, and because obviously you'd arranged it, but where did you meet him? Was it like at the warehouse or like outside the warehouse? Like where did you meet him? And the first bit when you went, "All right, I'm Youngie." What's that bit like?
It's just obviously, you know, like I'm the biggest fanboy ever, and I had to play it cool, and I kind of managed it. But I've listened back to the interview now, and I lose it at times. I'm clearly just the biggest fanboy ever. So his PA, this lovely lady called Michaela, she helped arrange everything, and she said to me, "You can either meet us at the museum, or you can meet us at the theatre after the show and come in the car with us." And I'm thinking, I can't do that. I can't just get in the car. Like, that's it. And also, he's just come off stage, so I said, I'll meet you at the museum. So I was.
Oh, that'd have been good. You Copperfield, Kenner, the alien. That'd have been good.
I just couldn't do it. I couldn't imagine sitting in a car with them all going, "What's going on?" You know.
Yeah.
So I thought, no, I'll just meet them at the museum. So,
yeah, I get it.
I don't know if you've ever been to the museum, but it's like the best way I can describe it. You remember the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory from the 70s? Do you remember the bit when Charlie walks past the factory and sort of stares through the gates, wondering what's in there? Like, that was basically me at midnight last Tuesday night going, "This is amazing."
If this ends with Copperfield giving you the museum, I'm going to be livid.
That's not what happens. Okay. Yeah, I kind of thought it would have been brilliant if, like, at midnight, you know, the door opened and he kind of came out like Gene Wilder, you know, and then opened the gates. But that's not what happened. Chris Kenner arrived first, let me in, and we had a little chat outside. And then we go inside the museum into this kind of room that's got all of David's, like, awards and kind of, like, some amazing, like, memorabilia from his own career. And so I kind of set up, and there's no kind of like fanfare. There's now like, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David Copperfield." No, he just walks in, and he goes,
handshake or a hug?
Actually, no, I think it was a handshake. Yeah. So he just walked in. He's still dressed in what he wore on stage like an hour earlier. So he's literally like classic Copperfield, you know, black trousers, black shirt, and he goes, "Right. How's it going?" And I go, "Good, yeah." And I'm kind of expecting like a kind of like, oh, we'll have a little chat like I normally do, you know, like explain like how the podcast. Nope, he just walks in.
Yeah.
He just sits down in the chair like, "I'm ready to start." Absolute hero. Just like, "I'm ready for business." So I go, "Oh, you ready to start?" He's like, "Yeah." So literally that's it. So when you hear this interview in a few weeks' time, that is the moment we meet, basically.
Right.
And
there's no foreplay with DC.
No, none whatsoever. And
Okay.
and you'll be able to tell when you listen to it as well. Like, I'm a bit nervous. Like, it's not like any of the other ones I've done. You can tell I'm nervous. I settle into it quite quickly, but yeah, like initially I'm very nervous. Obviously, I want to explain to him at the beginning just how important it was to me that this project ended with him and everything. And it's an amazing interview. It's nearly 2 hours long. You've never heard him talk about most of this stuff before, you know. Like I said, he just talks to, you know, Oprah Winfrey and David Letterman and Jay Leno, and normally they ask him very vague things. This is an interview with David Copperfield, 4 Magicians, and we talk about his work in detail, and we go through his TV specials and all of his illusion. Oh, it's just, I can't wait to share it with everybody. I cannot wait. I'm literally counting down the days. So it's June the 21st, right here on this feed. It's a 2-hour interview with David Copperfield as the finale of this podcast.
Brilliant.
So
I wondered how, especially that first bit. I wonder what that was like when you first met him and just did it. But that's interesting. You just sat down and did the interview.
He knows I'm like the biggest fanboy ever. Like he knows. Like he doesn't say anything.
Blocked you on Twitter now.
Actually, this was one of the best things ever happened to me. The day after, he followed me on Twitter, which I was like, wow. Amazing. Although I'm not sure he runs his Twitter, so I don't know if it was him or not. But you know, in my head, it was him. So what's going on at your end?
I'll tell you what's going on. So people, I think, tune into this bit because for two reasons. One, it's because they may be driving and they can't skip it before they get to the interview. Keep your eyes on the road, guys. And the other bit is, I think they tune in for the tips.
Yes, yeah.
I've got a couple of weeks ago. I did some tips, and it went down quite well. So I thought I'd give some more tips.
I'd love to hear some more tips. I think these are the best things you do on this podcast. So
yeah, so good tips. Now they're not particularly funny, but they are very helpful. That's what I found with these ones. So these are things that I put in my contract, right? So if I ever manage to book in a job, so for instance, you know that one I've got in August, the wedding.
Yeah, your gig in August. Yeah.
Yeah. So I put this in the PDF that I sent, and I'm sure you could probably Dr. Gigio as well for everyone that uses that to put these things in. I'm sure there's a space to put extra things in. So I did some before. Here's my new ones. Tell them that the worst 3 words a magician can hear is everyone swap seats.
Oh, the worst thing. The worst thing.
Yeah. So it's things like this that put in your contract, right? That I think it's a really hard job doing close-up magic, right? It is tough, and it's just things like this that just make it a little bit easier and a little bit better.
Yes, I agree.
Right. Here's another one. At Christmas time, right? Tell them to avoid putting rocket balloons, squeakers, and other noisy objects on the table, because you want magicians. You want the magician to get everybody's attention, not the objects, right? So just tell them to avoid putting them on. And you know what? It don't happen every time, but I found since I started putting that on, I get a lot less of them.
Do you really? Oh, that's really interesting. I wouldn't be sure they would actually, listen, or I'd imagine there's multiple people involved in the planning of an event. So
yes, yeah.
But that's interesting that you have actually seen less of those.
Yeah, and what I do is about a week before the gig, I just say to them, looking forward to it next week. Don't forget to have a quick look again at the 10 things I've got on the page. Just really helpful. Just now it's getting close to the event, and so it's just a little reminder as well a few days beforehand.
That's really good. That's a really good tip.
If there's a Toastmaster, I go and have a word with him and say, just before you do the gavel to sort of wrap things up, if I'm at a table, can you just come and tap me on the shoulder, and so I can wrap things up with my lot before you do your bit. So do you know if he's going into the auction or something, doing that, get him just to come and tap you on the shoulder, because there's nothing worse than you've signed a card and then you've just put it in your mouth or whatever, and he goes bing, 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 and then everyone looks away, and then you're there like a pillock with a card in your mouth. And another one as well is similar to the waiter one that I did before about asking the waiters not to come around. Is when you're doing these balls, these are sort of multi-magician ones usually, when there's a few of you. Another one is to, all the people that come around doing the quiz sheets and the raffle tickets and stuff like that, and they're coming around with the envelopes. You can always see which table they're sat on, because they're always the one where they're not paying attention to anything and they've got loads of bits of paper on the table.
yes, yeah.
And they're not focused or involved in the event at all, really, apart from ripping up raffle tickets. So just go over to them and just go, hi guys, I'm the magician. Hey, I look forward to showing you some things later on. By the way, when I'm at a table, can you just try and avoid my table? So can you just not do the raffle tickets at that point, and just go and say hello to them, because it just spoils the flow for everybody else. But as soon as they're gone, feel free to come over and do that then. But is that all right? And usually they leave you alone. And it's the times when I've forgotten to do that drives me mental, when they come halfway through and start going, okay, guys, put your money in the envelopes, or here's your raffle tickets, or whatever, all of those things.
Absolutely brilliant, practical advice. Well done, Hudson. Fantastic.
So, tell me about this week's interview with Homer Liwag. Let me tell you the 2 things I know about him.
Go for it.
1, actually 3 things. 1, works at Copperfield.
Yes, obviously. He's his co-director.
Yeah. 2, he has got a dog called Hudson.
He does have a dog called Hudson. A little chihuahua.
So I looked on his Instagrams and he often tags him in.
Yeah, he does.
I wonder if he is a fan of the podcast. Maybe, do you think, how long has he had him?
What are you trying to say?
I I'm just thinking maybe if he's got him in the last 6 months, maybe he's thought, oh, that's a good name.
You think he's named the dog after you?
Yeah, it could have been Young or Hudson, and I think, yeah, Hudson. Anyway, he might have had it before, but I don't know. And then
I'll ask him. I'll ask him in the interview.
All right, yeah, all right, ask him. And then the next one is Coin One. That's what I really know him for.
Isn't it brilliant?
Yeah. So, do you remember it? Like the coin to cross thing? That was the first sort of, for me, it was the first introduction of him kind of going, who's this guy? And then just did the most brilliant coins across, 2 hands, 4 coins. There's some lovely little bits in it where goes, do you want to see it go? And then I know other people have done this, the sort of visible bit where you see it then visibly go, but it sort of flicks it in the air, catches it, and then it's back in the other hand.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, some really nice bits in it. So that's how I know him. And but yeah, good interview.
It's a great interview, and actually Coin One, we do talk about Coin One quite a bit in this interview, so if you've never seen it, I would advise you to pause this podcast right now, just hit YouTube and look up Coin One Homer Liwag. The trailer's on there. What's really interesting is not just the trick. What's interesting is the video that you watch. The way the video is put together. Homer created everything that you see. The animation, he found the music, he did the editing. He is an amazing cinematographer, and one of his key jobs for David Copperfield is he creates all of the video content that you see in the show. So the opening video at the beginning of the current Vegas show, if you've not seen it, is an amazing video which sets up the whole premise of the show to live the impossible. Homer will talk on this podcast about how the creation of that video. He's just got an incredible eye for detail, and of course that is why he works for David Copperfield, because David Copperfield's work is the most detailed magic illusion work in history. You'd agree with that, Hudson, right? It's
100%.
So that's why Homer has been there for so long and has made his way up through the ranks over the years and is now his co-director. Homer is responsible for everything that you see and hear in the show, all of the music, all of the lighting cues, all of the video, all of the props. He designs the props themselves. Obviously, it's a collaboration with the other guys as well, but Homer's the one. I'd urge you, if you've got time, just to look up sort of Homer's Instagram and take a look at some of his drawings, and it's amazing. It's incredible. So he's an incredible guy. He was the first of the 3 to say yes to me when I approached them with this idea of having this amazing end to the season where, we do this week Homer, next week Chris Kenner, and the week after David Copperfield. He actually came to my hotel suite. When I was in Vegas a month or so ago, and I was staying at Luxor, he came to my hotel room after the shows at the MGM Grand and sat down with me and recorded this interview, which you are about to hear. I hope you absolutely love this very unique insight into this interesting man and, of course, the David Copperfield brand. Here we go then, Hudson. Are you ready for this one?
I'm ready. One thing, how are you going to ask him about the dog if you've already done the interview a month ago?
Yeah, let's draw a little discreet line over that, shall we?
Okay.
This is Homer Liwag. Here we go. To me right now it feels like it's 7:30 a.m, but actually it's 11:30 p.m, and I'm here with Homer Liwag. This is amazing. How are you? Welcome to the Magicians Podcast.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
First of all, we just need to address the elephant in the room, which is, and amazingly, she is in the room. My co-host, Alan Hudson, asked, did you name your dog Hudson after my co-host?
I didn't know that was your co-host's name.
There you go.
She's actually named after the Hudson River in New York.
Very good. Any reason why you named her after the Hudson River?
Just love I love New York, so it's just looking for New York names. Hudson, Madison, the Bronx didn't sound so good.
Not really a dog's name, is it? The
right,
Bronx,
no,
definitely not.
Not a little Chihuahua.
First of all, I just want to say, Homer, I've been a massive fan of your work for a long, long time. Like, obviously, everyone who listens to this podcast knows that David is my absolute idol in magic, but also critically, actually, for me, it's the team that he surrounded himself with over 25 years. And I know you are 1/3, in my opinion, the greatest 3 collaborators in the magic world. So I'm genuinely so honoured that you're here and to get an insight into just just how perfect your work is, and that's the thing that I really want to try and get an understanding of.
Well, the key is don't show the bad stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. So I've been obviously looking into you, and I've listened to another great podcast that you did. Your degree, actually, I found quite interesting. But before we get to that, obviously people know you more as like an artist, but your dad was an artist too. So this is a family thing.
My dad is an amazing artist. He can paint, sculpt, draw in almost any medium, like chalk, pastel, sculpt, clay, pencil. Like, he has an amazing eye for detail, and he's a professionally trained artist, fine artist. So yeah, and he's super skilled. And the one thing I remember growing up was he used to do portraits at different festivals around the Midwest, and he was able to sit someone down and in 15 minutes not only capture their likeness in pencil or pastel or charcoal, but also you could sense the mood they were in. You know, it captured the character, not just the likeness. And,
Yes.
and that's really difficult for an artist. So I can't do it. So
I find it interesting if this is your background with your dad, and obviously you're incredibly artistic yourself. Actually, one of the things, maybe this is just my kind of perception, but I'm interested to know how magic ever grabbed your attention, really, in terms to it's not very often artistic, is it, if we're being completely honest? I'm interested to know why magic really grabbed your attention.
that might, definitely the art stuff was sponged from my dad, because I grew up around him always creating art. Magic wise, I think probably because I'm an only child and I was probably striving for attention, as a little kid growing up in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's where I grew up. So I've always sort of, if it wasn't magic, I always liked getting attention somehow. I used to be the class clown. I used to be the one in class making noises, barnyard animal noises, as the teachers called it, to try to make my friends laugh. And I don't know, I think it's all kind of the same thing. It's just kind of looking for approval, from your classmates.
What sort of magic really grabbed your attention when you were a kid? What type connected with you? I know you spent a few years doing table magic in restaurants, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but I'm interested to know, when you were a kid, before you decide what you can do, what did you love? What type of magic really connected?
Besides learning that first card trick or two, I remember I was in the Philippines on vacation when I was, I'm going to guess, 11, and they were doing reruns of Mark Wilson's show like once a week, and I remember captivated. Just watch. I don't know which Magic Circus that he had.
I'm not sure.
Something,
actually,
but I just remember being captivated by the magic, but mostly the close-up magic. When he was doing I can't remember. I was so young, but I remember loving the little magic that was happening on the close-up mat, and I remember thinking, that's what I want to do, or that's what I want to learn. So I gravitated toward the small things. I'd probably be a terrible stage performer, so I like the small fun things that are a little more casual and offbeat. So
you did a degree in industrial design.
I did. I didn't graduate.
And I'm interested in this. I hope this is true, what I read, which is that you studied for 6 years over a 5-year program.
Yes.
But then you didn't graduate.
I didn't graduate.
Okay.
It's a 5-year program. At the time, it was a number 2 school in the country, behind Art Center in Pasadena, which is a famous school for its vehicle design. A lot of ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, artists come from there. Our school is known for its industrial design program in Cincinnati, and they're a 5-year program, and they're known for being the biggest school with the most workforce. So the people that actually a lot of people graduate from industrial design, and they might be able to draw, but they can't really design. The strong part about my school is that by the time you graduate in 5 years, you have over 2 years of actual internships with real companies. So you've actually worked in the field, and a lot of people will go on to their first jobs in one of those companies that they've internshiped with. So I was lucky enough to internship at various companies, and some in San Francisco, some in New York, some in the Midwest, and so I got a lot of experience with real companies. But at the time I was also into magic, so I was, there was this restaurant that opened up in in Indiana, just outside of Indianapolis, called Illusions Restaurant in Carmel, Indiana, and that's where Mike Close, Chris Kenner, Dan Daggert, all these great magicians worked, and that's where I started. And it was about an hour and a half drive from Cincinnati, so
Right.
I would, I'd go there for the weekend to just hang out, and then oftentimes they'd be like, "Hey, you want to do a table?" So I go, "All right, I'll put a jacket on." I'd just throw a sports coat on over a t-shirt, and I would do some table magic when they were swamped, just because they were like being nice to me. And next thing you know, weekend turned into weekend in a day, weekend in 2 days. Next thing you know, I was spending a whole week there,
Yeah.
skipping classes.
Right.
I would be staying at I would stay at Chris Kenner's house, sleep on his couch, and next thing you know, we're doing projects together. So we're like, hey, let's write a magazine together. And before you know it, I was, moving to Indianapolis and doing magic full time, bartending, doing bar magic, doing tables during the week, and that's why I never graduated, basically.
I see. Obviously, I've worked professionally as a close-up magician, so I know what it's like. Did you just go for a process with it? By the end, did you kind of go, I don't really want to do this? Did it get a bit boring? Or it's about 5 years you did it, right? Is that right?
You mean the design or the close-up?
The close-up, yeah.
Oh, I loved it.
Did you really?
Absolutely loved, because I was the kind of person, there's people that do their set, and there's people that do their set and add 10% every time. And I was that kind of person that was like, I'm going to do 90% of what I normally do, and that 10%, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try a new technique. I'm going to try something that's risky. I'm going to try something I came up with last night. I'm going to try something I came up with in the bar 5 minutes ago. And so every single table was like a chance to get better, learn something, and we were having the time of our lives at Illusions Restaurant. It was like,
Well, it was an incredible group of people, wasn't it? Actually, especially looking back now.
Yeah.
These people all became very influential in the industry.
For sure. And it was, it was kind of an upscale restaurant in a upscale neighborhood. So the food was really good. So it wasn't like they were having burgers and fries. They were having filet mignon and nice pastas. So everything was a little bit upscale. So the magic was classier, and it was
Respected, I guess.
Respected, and it was also, I'm not good at cold calling. I can't. If you sent me into a restaurant to say do some tables, I probably sit in the corner for 30 minutes. This is a place where they expected you to come around at the end to do magic, so they were welcoming you.
Yes, that's
so
very different,
and it's a totally different experience. I can't cold call at all.
Yes.
I'd be terrible.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What may I ask at this time? What sort of magic? What sort of close-up magic? You said you were changing 10%, but were you really into the coin stuff? Obviously, we know you for coin 1, coin 2. Was this card magic at the time?
I did. I normally did like my like mainstay, like the thing I did that I knew would always work was David Williamson's card to pocket and his 4-card trick.
Yes.
But surrounding that, I did a bunch of bits. So the card trick with the card to pocket would have where Williamson has a card signed, then you peel the signature off. I would do that, but I would do a bit with a marker. So I do the bit with a marker, and I do Jay Sankey's marker in the cap, and then I would drop the ball bearing out of the marker. It's a ballpoint marker. This thing will be running all night. So I love offhanded bits, like Gaten Bloom kind of, where Cardini, where things are happening and you're just one step behind, and I love that kind of magic, where it's not like, hey, watch this.
Yeah.
It's more like, here, hand me, what just happened?
Yeah.
I did a whole routine with pencils. I did a whole routine with gum. And I'd vary it up depending on the table. I would do some coin. Coin 1 was not a great trick to do at tables because people are low, and it's kind of a trick where people need to look down. So I would do coin 2 or John Kennedy's translocation on the table, on the mat. So I had that when I was starting to try to do original magic at the table. It would be Williamson's card trick, but I would surround it with the marker and the ball bearing, a whole pencil routine, a little bit of gum routine. I had a trick with the little Carmex, the little
Yes.
lip balm in the little tin. I did a Aikido box thing with that,
Okay.
which was pretty cool. And so I wanted to be different. So
We'll just sidetrack a little bit, if that's okay. You mentioned Coin 1 and Coin 2. I'm actually really interested to know, when did you come up with those? Because obviously they were released about 15 years ago or so. On
2006 and 2008 or something.
Yeah, on DVD. But actually, when were these routines created?
Well, let's see. Coin 1 was based on a friend of mine back in Cincinnati around let's get this right now, 1986.
Wow.
Were you even born yet?
84, so I was 2.
His name is Mike Liptak, which is one of the best coin magicians I've ever seen, and no one knows who he is.
It's often the way, actually, isn't
yes, he showed me a routine which he called John Kennedy's in the hands translocation. So John Kennedy has this amazing translocation coin effect, coins across on the mat. This is a version done in the hands.
Yes.
So I've never seen the print of it, but I heard that he's published it or taught it or something. When I saw that and played with that for a while, Coin 1 is basically the exact opposite of it. Okay. So in translocation, you basically, to make a coin go across, you hide a coin on one side and you expose a coin on the other side.
Oh, I understand.
In Coin 1, you reveal a coin, and you use can I expose,
if you're happy to.
Yeah, and the shell covers, the shell nests, and the hidden coin appears.
Yes.
So you're clean at the end of each one. In the hands translocation, you are dirty at the end of each phase.
I understand.
So that's exactly what Coin 1 came from. And Coin 2 came about maybe a year or two later after meeting Troy Hoosier, who's another amazing coin magician. And he had a 3-coin vanish that was published, I believe, in one of the Magic Man Examiners with Chris. And it was my version of that. And a lot of Coin 2 is a hybrid of moves from me, Troy Hoosier, Chris Kenner, all kind of rolled into one. So
I learnt Coin 1 when the DVD came out, ordered it from you, and spent months in it. I'll be honest, I do it very averagely, despite my best efforts.
I learned that it doesn't fit a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's a little knacky. Like, the only person I've seen that does it really well is like Chris Korn, if you know him.
Yes.
And it's kind of it's knacky.
I can't get the motion of the hands up and down as quick as as you can.
To do that production, which I think it's called the flashback production, I think. How that came about was I had a coin in deep back clip, and like the David Roth technique where you use your pinky to pull it around from underneath.
Yes.
I couldn't do that, so I would just shake my hand and bounce it up.
Oh, so it was almost by
a necessity, because I couldn't do the proper technique.
Yeah.
And eventually I was like, hey, that kind of looks cool. So, but what I was saying is, to do the flashback production correctly, you have to come close to missing it. It's like to do it where it looks amazing, it's risky. You're going to risk dropping that coin.
Yes.
To do it safe, like if you're doing it for people and do it safe, it's sloppy, because you're making sure you don't drop that.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happened.
What happens then is it's not picture perfect, but it's good enough for an audience.
Yes.
But for video, if you want to nail it, you're going to miss it 3 out of 4 times probably. So.
Do you know what, Homer? That's good to know, actually, because I just thought I was rubbish. I couldn't do it, but that's good to know that the video was you getting it perfect. If you haven't seen Coin 1, by the way, just look it up right now. It's one of the most brilliant coin tricks you'll ever see. The DVDs, Coin 1 and Coin 2, are unreal. I still don't think there's been anything anywhere near as good produced since. It's fair to say this was a passion project for you. I can't even imagine how much time went into these 2 DVD sets.
It was a passion project. At the time, I had the minute before I decided doing that, I had no interest in doing a Magic DVD. Most Magic DVDs up till, most Magic DVDs in general, I just didn't like, the production value, the music, there's too much talking, or the camera work's really bad, the lighting's really bad. And this Coin Magic DVD came out that had 2 3-coin vanish sequences on it. And when I saw that, I'm like, wait a minute, if this guy can do it... Because at the time I thought a Magic DVD had to have like an hour's worth of magic, and like a what's the one... Is it not LNL? What's the one with the audience that's all crazy, and Mara did one?
Penguin?
No, way before, talking 80s.
Oh, I'm not sure then.
The
This Don
Tom
Allen.
Mollica did one.
Don Allen did one. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
the Magic Library series, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Those were produced in a studio. Those were done so nicely, and I was like, I'm never going to be in a studio and do an hour's worth of material. But when this guy releases 3-coin Vanish and with basically 2 tricks on a DVD, I was like, wait a minute, if this guy can do it, hell, I can do it. And I just was looking for a project to do. So I borrowed a camcorder from Chris. This was shot on HDV tape.
Wow.
And I set up some lighting and found that perfect angle. I wanted the angle to be the same as what a spectator would see, which is this perfect down angle. I wanted it to be lit so it didn't look like a studio. I wanted it to look like it was, just kind of, I don't know how to explain that. How do you explain the way that Coin One's lit? It's just...
Yeah, I know.
It's a little artsy.
Yeah, it's very artsy,
but it's clear. It's very clear.
Oh, you can see every detail beautifully.
Yeah, it's nothing distracting.
And also, it makes the magic so clear as well and so impressive.
And that's also why I didn't normally do the trick with silver dollars. But when you have an open hand and you put a $50 on your palm, it's 90% skin. So on video, I wanted those coins to really pop, so I used silver dollars.
I see.
It actually makes the move easier. It's just the angles are crappy.
Yeah.
But so, and I lit it. I have really rough hands, so I lit it as much as I could to soften the wrinkles. So there's soft light coming towards my right hand, which is more wrinkled than my left hand. It was like a exercise in cinematography. And then I thought, hey, what if it'd be cool if I didn't talk? Because the one thing I hate is when you put in a DVD and the guy's talking and he's talking and then you fall asleep, right? So I was inspired by like airline safety videos.
Oh, wow, really?
And like the card, you open the card and in 4 pictures it shows you how to put the seatbelt together, right? In an airline safety card. How can I do that with magic? So it's taught without lots of words, just visual, 3 panels, and okay, this goes in here, click, you're done, pull tight.
I mean, there's no words on Coin One, but it's absolutely so clear, every detail of what's going on.
And the other thing I wanted to really do also was the way it was taught. Instead of going into a full, all right, here's what we do, here's a little details and finesse, and have an hour-long explanation, I tried to teach an overview first. Here's basically what happens. Like, here's the basic golf swing. Then I'll get into details like how far your feet should be apart in a golf swing, how much weight you put on your right foot versus your left foot. You don't want to give that information right away because the people learning they're going to fall asleep. So here's an overview. And then the other thing I stressed was when you explain something, it should be from the exact point of view as a performer. If the camera's off to the side, or if it's from the audience view and you're trying to show them like where a coin's, how you're holding a coin, I want it to look like if you were practicing a trick and you look down at your hands. That's how the explanation should look. And it's actually difficult to do that because the camera, I'll show you behind the scenes picture one day. To put the camera in a certain way, you have to angle your hand a certain way so it looks like the camera's between your hands.
Right.
Because the camcorder is giant.
Yes.
Now the cameras are smaller. You could probably put it under your chin and have that same point of view. But back then the camera was like 15 inches long. So to put that camera in front of you, you wouldn't be able to do the trick. So I'm rambling, sorry.
You're not rambling, actually. And do you know what? This is what I really want to try and break through, actually, and understand, is that, as I mentioned at the beginning, your work is just incredible. And it's the detail that is why it's on another level. And I wonder if maybe we could talk about that now, actually.
Sure.
Just your understanding, and this is something I've noticed in David's work since I was a child, is just what makes it a level up from everybody else is just the attention to detail. Is this almost a culture? Is that the thing you spend the most time talking about once a piece of magic hits the stage?
The Magicians Podcast, brought to you in association with the Magic Circle, the world's premier magical society. Are you ready to join the world's most exclusive magic club? Visit themagiccircle.co.uk to find out more.
Gigi-o, free for 30 days. Be a pro, get Gigi-o.
Nick Einhorn says he could not run his business so efficiently without it. What's he talking about? Well, Gigio, of course. Top professional magicians love using Gigio to manage their bookings and admin. It's an easy-to-use web-based software that takes care of your inquiries, contracts, invoices, payments, and reports. You can generate professional PDF contracts in seconds and allow your clients to agree them online quickly and conveniently. Gigio will even automatically update the diary on your phone. Read what other top magicians say about Gigio and take a free 30-day trial right now at getgigio.com. Getgigio is spelled GetGigio.com.
Whether you're new to magic or a seasoned professional, Alakazam Magic are here to help. Alakazam have been supplying magic to magicians for well over 20 years. Not only do we carry all the latest and greatest magic tricks, books and DVDs, but we also manufacture one of the finest ranges of magic tricks in the world. The Alakazam name is synonymous with great customer service, educated advice and honesty. So if you're shopping for new magic, make sure you check out our website www.alakazam.co.uk or pay a visit to our fully stocked shop.
Alakazam is my favourite magic shop, and my favourite product at my favourite magic shop is the Alakazam Online Magic Academy. It's a fantastic new way of learning magic. There's new content every single month, so whether you are a full-time professional looking for a new routine or an amateur or brand new to our wonderful hobby, the Alakazam Online Magic Academy has something for everybody. Go and take a look at it today. I promise you will not regret it, and there is something on there for everybody today too. That is the Alakazam Online Magic Academy. You can access it through the Alakazam Magic website. And this is something I've noticed in David's work since I was a child, is just what makes it a level up from everybody else is just the attention to detail. Is this almost a culture? Is that the thing you spend the most time talking about once a piece of magic hits the stage?
Well, I don't know if this answers your question, but what drew me to David when I was young wasn't necessarily, most people are drawn to David because of the magic or the spectacle or whatever. I was drawn in because of the little details. That details that a lot of magicians missed. I'd watch the magic special and hear other magicians say, oh, it's just you just did that switch or whatever. And I would, in my mind, or I would tell them but you didn't just do a switch. The hand never left the view. The shadow never changed. I got into these little details that no one noticed. Like when he does the vanishing radio from the 50s routine, the cord hanging out the bottom, little details like that. I believe that's his. And the little knee kick, I think he got from someone else. But there's little details like that. And, if you go on YouTube right now and search, it's like old David Copperfield commercials. There's a Schlitz beer commercial from the 70s. And in 30 seconds, there's amazing magic happening. I believe in that illusion, there's a waiter levitates holding a tray with a beer on it. But just before he lifts, someone walks behind him. So if there's a levitation arm,
it can't be there.
It can't be there. So this person walks behind. This is all in like a 30-second commercial. And the camera's tracking over, and this is, in the 70s, there's no special effects back then, so it's all done in camera. And, look up that commercial and look at the little details, frame by frame it, and look at the little details of the person walking behind and the guy levitating, and it's pretty amazing. But it was those kind of details that drew me to David, and, it's a long story probably to figure out why I'm into that kind of detail, but that's what attracted me to David's work. Was it wasn't just because David Copperfield, he's a big star. It was because of the attention to detail and design he put in this, his props, and also the fact that all his props didn't look like props. They looked like an old luggage cart, or it looked like a cardboard box. It didn't have silver pinstriping on it, and I love that. I love that kind of attention to detail. In fact, just maybe a couple of years ago, he was doing, we have the duck trick where it goes into the bucket.
Yes.
Right. And of course we have not just a duck bucket. We have, I don't know if when you saw the show, was a duck still in the show?
Yeah, I've it's probably time I confess. Basically, every single time I come to Vegas, I see that show at least twice.
But it's not just as if you notice, you know, we know how a duck bucket works.
Is this to do with the light, the torch that you're?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's more to that. You can show both sides of that bucket.
And do you know what? It's amazing you said that, because I saw it and went, he's opened the other side of it.
Yes.
And I thought, and I literally dismissed it in my brain and went, I've missed something there.
There's a lot of thought and effort and design went into that bucket for something that the average person doesn't ever notice.
He does something where he says, I heard that.
Yeah, it's like, okay, show the other side.
Oh, I remember now. Yeah,
so you can literally show both sides.
Oh,
one
my
like
goodness.
literally open one side, close it, and without pausing a half second, open the other side, show it clearly.
Yeah.
And it looks good from, you know, most duck buckets don't look good unless you're a few feet away. This looks good inches away.
Yeah.
But not only that, he does a little thing with his hands where he puts both hands into the bucket at the same time. He does that, but remember, one side has a duck in it. How do you?
That's amazing. Yeah.
The duck. It's not like it's open, like he can put his hand in there because the duck would pop out.
Yeah.
So that's all I can say. I can't
I understand.
reveal it.
I understand.
But
yeah.
one time he was like, one time I was backstage and right before the show he goes, "Hey Homer." I had like been off for the weekend. I come back on a Monday and David's like, "Hey Homer, go watch the duck trick." I'm like, "Why?" So I go out there and I sit in the back and I'm like, "Okay, duck trick." And then he does this thing with his hands to like one little proving, right? Like that one last little like nothing up the sleeve or whatever. And I was like, "Wow, that's cool." And then I immediately connected back to my childhood when I was whatever I was, 8 or 9, and said, "That's why I liked David when I was a kid, was those kind of details." And it connected me immediately when he said, "Go out and check this out." And I saw that, I'm like, wow, that's cool. I love that. I love those little details. You know, it's almost like it was just for me, you know?
I hope one day I get a chance to ask him this, actually. You've talked about what drew you to him. Has he ever told you what drew him to you? Has he ever told you what it was
I
about?
could type fast. When I started, I came into an administrative position.
Okay.
An assistant had decided to leave one morning, and they were on the road traveling. And
I'd love to get this in detail. Actually, please tell me about the first meeting and how it came about.
Okay. All right, we're gonna go back in time.
So this is around 94, around this sort
Yeah,
of time?
we'll say 94. David knew me because around 94, he had come to Indianapolis with the show, and I think Mike Caveney had said, "Hey, while you're in Indianapolis, go see Chris Kenner because he has a trick you might like, and it's the little shoe,
The
ring flight with the shoe,
yeah.
which is." I'm gonna jump back another step. You know what? One thing that's amazing about detail and like why I love what Chris does is, you know, at the restaurant that we worked at, everyone did ring flight. If you ever walked into like a situation with other magicians and everyone does a ring flight,
Yeah,
right?
Nothing's changed, by the way.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Chris did ring flight because Chris saw that and was like, oh, people are getting reactions. Like, I gotta do ring flight. So he did ring flight for I don't know a week, and it was like, I'm just one other person doing the same thing. So he thought about it and he decided to, and it's tricky. The method's really tricky because it's not as easy as you think just to get on a shoe. He created Little Shoe, which is ring flight tied to laces of a little baby tennis shoe.
Brilliant.
He started doing that at Illusions, and when he did that trick, the audience, the people at the tables that are a lot of times are regulars, would say, "Hey, we saw that guy do the thing on the ring on the key case, but this is different. It appeared on a tennis shoe." They thought it was a completely different trick.
Amazing.
And they remembered him for it.
Yeah.
You know, do the little shoe trick, you know. And it's that, you know, that perseverance to do something a little different and that fits you, and not just, I mean, everyone does what's the big trick now? Everyone does the kiss trick where everyone puts the card in the mouth.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't do that trick. It's so good, yes, it's so tempting. And I'm also lucky I don't make my living doing magic. If I had to make a living doing magic, I might have to do that trick because it plays and I need a paycheck, right?
Yeah.
But I have the luxury of I don't need to make money from magic, so I can stay away from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, there was a time when I had to do the Sponge Bunnies. It's so good. The reaction's so good. But, you know, at a certain point, you have to wean yourself from something that, even if it's that powerful and that good, to kind of develop as an artist, I believe.
I think this is absolutely fascinating. One of the things we've talked about a lot on this podcast is, do you know? I don't know if it's the same here. Do you know the omni-deck trick?
No.
So it's the where you turn the deck of cards into a block of glass. And in the UK, I mean, you literally will not be able to find a close-up magician who doesn't do it. And so it's kind of known as a bit of a dirty trick now because everybody does it. And there's a few magicians who have gone through it. In fact, my co-host Alan Hudson has gone through the process of literally he just put it in the bin and like, if I don't own it,
very
I can't
difficult
do
to
it.
do.
Yeah.
Very difficult to do. It's like almost like getting rid of an addiction.
Yes.
Because those tricks are good tricks and they're very powerful, and you know, a lot of laymen haven't seen them, but you know, things are starting to appear on TV. They're starting to see things in America's Got Talent, and they're starting to repeat. So it's tougher now, but it is hard to get rid of those. I remember you can talk to Chris. You know, he had Rocky the Raccoon in his stand-up act for a long time. He closed with it, and he'll tell you it was very difficult to get rid of. And he did it different than most people. He had a really cool card. He did it with a card selection, and the Rocky the Raccoon found the card. He had original jokes. And it was better than most, but it was very, very difficult for him to ditch that for a rope trick that he created. And I mean, you can ask him about that, because that's a good lesson in, you know, sometimes you have to let those go.
Yeah.
You know, and it's difficult.
I love that you use the word addiction. I think you're absolutely spot on. It is. It's an addiction because you know it works. And it's safe, and it makes you feel comfortable, but you just got to get rid of it. You've got to do it. So we digress. But so you were talking about how you sort of first met David.
Yes.
You said he came to Indianapolis.
Okay, so you know, he probably knew of me through Chris. So I think in '94, I might be going back to more like '93. You know, Chris got on board with David. You know, he started coming out to because of the shoe, to help him out with the shoe. They became friends immediately. They both liked music and they loved movies, and they clicked right away. Next thing you know, he's going out for a week to help, and then he started helping with TV specials and designing and consulting and developing magic with David. And eventually he was permanently on the road and became his magic consultant and friend. David, you know, when the crew was putting the show, you know, loading out the show, they would go out to a club and talk magic and have fun and see movies. And then I remember I believe it's in November of '94, Chris called me up and said, "Hey, we're back in Vegas. We're getting ready for a TV special." He said, "Can you come out for a week while we're in Vegas and just help art direct the props that already existed?" So I flew out to Vegas. I'd never been to Vegas at that time. It was great. The room I was staying in at Caesar's Palace had a round bed with a mirror above it, and you hit a button, the curtain opened up. That was my first experience in Las Vegas. Never had room service before that, so it was incredible. And the first day on the job, I walked on the stage at Caesar's Palace, and this is a pretty big stage at the time. It doesn't exist anymore. And I've never really been in a theater before. So I'm like, you know, what's that up there? And I've never seen what props look like when they're not being used. So I would look at the elevator illusion. It was just sitting there with like cables piled in it, and it was just like, is that working? I didn't realize that when it's not on stage, it's just literally just in the corner piled with stuff piled on it, right? I would look at another illusion, it's like, is that in the show tonight? Is it ready? Is it going to be ready? You know, even like when it was like an hour before the show, I would see one of the dancers in sweats, and I'd be like, shouldn't they be like, you know, doing exercises in their costumes, in their red dress or whatever? I didn't understand how theater worked, you know. And I remember Chris ordering room service, and I got a Caesar salad delivered into the middle of the stage, and I sat and had Caesar salad with Chris sitting in the middle of the stage, surrounded by all of David Copperfield's props, and it was kind of a
wow.
Like I don't have a picture of it. It's like
yeah,
very surreal. And at the time, I thought a Caesar salad was named Caesar salad because of Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. Another highlight of that day is they were training some new girls for one of the illusions, head mover. You know the head mover illusion with the table
the head
and
gets taken off.
Yeah, the Andre Cole illusion and David's combo of effect there. They needed a stand-in for David, so Joni Spina, who was choreographing at the time, taught me David's part, and I spent the next hour having this girl basically put her hands all over me because that illusion's like hands, leg, thigh, kick. So I had to learn David's part for that illusion with this hot dancer in the middle of the stage on my first day of work. I mean, seriously.
It's incredible.
So that week I helped touch up some props. It's the first time I really painted a prop before. And then I helped design a few things. So I helped design a prototype for the. Oh God, I'm about to give away an entire trick here. I helped with the Grandfather's Aces.
When you say you help, you mean like the way it was filmed and put together, or
a little bit of everything. I mean, most of that's Chris's, but I came in and helped a little bit with some of the art direction and. I don't. If I say any more, I'll give away something. So.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But so that was an amazing week, and let me add to that week. In that same week, for some reason, in town was David Williamson, Rudy Kobe, Mike Caveney, Joel Hodgson. You know Joel Hodgson?
Yes.
We're all in town hanging out, and I think we were hanging out in David's suite at the time. And David, at the time at Caesar's Palace, would stay at the Rain Man suite, which is the big 2-level suite that you see in the movie Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise. So we were hanging out in that room with them. And then we go out to dinner that night, and it was just like an amazing week. Like, I remember we were hanging out in David's suite, and Joel Hodgson fires up a bubble bath, gets in it, and Mike Cavey takes a picture of me holding a towel, standing next to Joel Hodgson like if I was his towel boy. And just a great time. So that was my introduction working with David. Come March of the next year, 95, an administrative assistant decided to call quits one morning and took off.
So this means then you were not part of the shows in London that November. That would have happened in November 94.
No.
So there was a gap here. Did you do the following year's London shows?
No, I did the original London shows in
Earl's Court.
Earl's Court. I was
you
there.
You were there?
Yes.
Wait, okay.
So I'm off a year.
All right, yeah.
So go back to 93.
Sorry, you should realise you are sat with the most insane David Copperfield fan ever. I know dates and everything. So yeah,
Okay.
that was November 94, the Earl's Court shows.
Okay, then it was March of 94 that Chris called me and said, hey, we have a position. I know you can type. You can be an administrative assistant. You can start from there. Can you be on a plane in 2 hours? And I was in Indianapolis, and that night I was going to go do, bartend, do magic or whatever. And I called them like, hey, Chris wants to come out and work for David. And they're like, go, go, go. So I packed my bags, got on a plane, and that night I went to Providence, Rhode Island, which is where the show was touring at the time, right into the middle of the tour. And I was typing letters, taking dictation, helping file. I was doing that for 6 months or so, while slowly starting to design things. So David knew I had an art background, so he said, "Hey, take a shot at this. I don't like the way it looks." And I remember the first thing I drew was we were at Caesar's Palace, and you remember that vertical sawing with that big blade?
Oh my God, yes, I loved it.
So the original blade looked like an X-Acto knife blade. So it's just basically sides that slightly tapered, and the bottom edge was angled like a big fat X-Acto knife blade.
Yes.
He said, I want it to look a little more menacing. And also the post that was holding it was just like a 1-inch aluminum post. It literally looked like a popsicle stick, right? Upside down. So I said, can you make it a little more menacing? So I remember doing a few sketches, and that night, sitting in my, at the time I was still doing administrative assistant duties. So we'd be starting at 9 in the morning, typing, making letters, filing, and then there'd be 2 shows. So super long day. And I remember going, and then the last show was at 11:30 at Caesars. So you were done by 1 a.m.
The last show would start at
11:30.
11:30.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
And it's because I think at the time, dinner reservations, the first show was like at 8, and the last show was at 11:30, something like that.
Wow.
People could eat between, and But anyway, I remember my parents were visiting me. They were asleep in my bed, and I had the light on the side table, and I was set up my rendering area, and I sat there and I drew the blade for the vertical saw. And if you look at that from the TV special, you see that it's no longer just a stick holding this blade. It is a big, thick post with 2 chains and like metal pieces, and the blade has a curve to it, and the bottom of it is like an S curve. So it looks like
the light shines off it beautifully because of that curve.
Super menacing looking. The reason why I like Star Wars is for the same thing. It's not just because it's a space movie with Jedis and lightsabers. It's because I love the design. So I put a lot of my design, Star Wars design influence in my Copperfield design. So
you must have absolutely loved designing a spaceship.
A
few years ago.
Yes, that was a dream come true. And I remember when I was back in school, in college, trying to not graduate, telling my classmates, one day, I wanted for my senior thesis was to like design an illusion that Dave would perform in the show. And
This is amazing.
And I remember joking about it, like, hey, one day I want to design something that Dave will perform in the show. And I love Star Wars, so little did I know that. I don't know how many years later I'd be designing a spaceship that would be flying over the heads of the audience, appearing magically, and design every inch of that ship.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. And there's some Star Wars hidden in there.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you want to share that with us? Or is that
It's a little detail. Well, if you know my deck of cards,
Yeah.
the design in that, that's the design on the back of my deck of cards, deck 1, is all influenced from Joe Johnston's sketches from like Empire Strikes Back.
It's quite an industrial design, isn't it? Yeah.
Which is the same design that's on this ring. So like you see that, you can't see this of course
But it's
on
very,
the podcast.
It's very easy to find a photo of this ring though, isn't it?
I think so.
So this is Homer's. This is your wedding band?
Yes.
Yes. So your wedding.
So
band.
like that circle there is the knee joint to an AT-AT, an all-terrain armored transport. This exact section, which you'll see also on the deck of cards, I can't see because I don't have my glasses, but this section and that section above it, you'll see on the bottom of the spaceship. Because I needed to fill detail, and I was like, to do those little minutiae detail is hard for me because it's like doing little tiny drawings to make a big, like Where's Waldo kind of drawing. So I copied and pasted the art from my deck of cards directly onto that file for the spaceship. So
I love stuff like that. That's great.
So that's on there.
Oh, I hope to see that again soon.
It's on the bottom. And if you see something that looks like part of my deck of cards, it's because that's the exact vector art used to create that. So, do we digress again?
We did. May I ask that the London shows at Earl's Court in my country are just legendary, and they're still talked about to this day.
Really? What do they say?
I'll be honest, I can say this now, but it's not all positive. Not because of the show, just because of how incredibly difficult the venue was.
It's just that place is ridiculous.
I remember David wasn't happy. Is that true? When he walked in?
I don't know. It's just a giant place. And
it's not there anymore, actually. It's been knocked down.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember sitting in the back, just like while they're loading in, and from the back, the only thing you could do is watch that screen that was hanging at the midpoint.
Yes.
Because there's like an Olympic swimming pool in the middle of that, right?
I think so, yeah.
I just remember it being so giant, and it's not, David does big magic, but it's better when it's a little more intimate. But, we were selling so many tickets that if you could fill Earl's Court, why not do a show?
Yeah.
But it wasn't probably the right venue for that,
Sure. Do you have any actual memories of that run?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, is there anything that springs to mind? Was it?
I just remember being giant, and it was the end of a long tour. I think it was the last city, so I was just tired and grumpy the whole time. And yeah.
Did you prefer when you came back the following year? You played more like the Hammersmith Apollo in London. You did the smaller arenas. So I remember the date, 17th September 1995, day after David's birthday. I saw the show at the National Indoor Arena in Birmingham, which was like half an arena. Mm-hmm. So it felt exactly like you said, intimate. Do you have more?
I don't. It's all a blur. We were traveling.
You were touring for years
constantly, right? And I kill myself. I hate myself because I would wish I was more into photography back then, and I spent time actually I would kill to have time to enjoy those cities a little bit and explore. You're so tired. You're working so hard with the show, having such long hours that as soon as you finish the show, the only thing you want to do is just get a drink at the bar, the nearest bar next to the hotel. That's all you want to do.
Yeah.
You don't want to explore. You don't. In the morning, you want to sleep in. You don't want to go see the sights. And if it'd be different now, I'd be like, I'm gonna get up. I want to walk the city. I want to take my camera with me and take pictures and enjoy life. But back then, it was, we were a rock and roll show. So it was all about the show, and you ate, slept, and drank the show basically. And I remember my first time touring. That was the first time I understood when someone got off work and just said, "I just need a beer." I never understood that. It's like, wouldn't I want to go eat or go relax or go see a movie? We were so tired by the end of the night when the second show was over, or third show, or sometimes the fourth show, depending on what city it was. It's like, I just want a beer. That's it. And I understood it then.
That's interesting. I think what you're describing there as well is that the reason you didn't understand it before is because close-up magicians don't work that hard, really. They never need a beer. So a few years ago, the show went through a massive redesign. I think it's fair to say the show stayed the same for quite a long time, didn't it?
Yeah.
Small changes, but not major pieces.
There was a duck bucket in the middle of that.
Yeah, there was a duck bucket in the middle. Talk to me about the process of the redesign of the show, the new show. I mean, this actually, more than anything of any of David's work, I see your fingerprints on everything. Like, not just, like a prop or something, but this is now you're doing, is it fair to say, you're doing the video at the beginning, the lighting design, the props, everything. You're now co-director, basically. That's your title.
Yes.
Is there anything you don't have anything to do with in the show?
I don't know. I
guess you're not selling the tickets at the box office.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I just always pride myself on, my thing is whatever I do, it's to make David look good. Whether it's video, whether it's his show, whether it's the sound, whether it's the lighting. I want him to look good. I want him to look as good as he can look. I never want him. I hate when he looks bad. When something goes wrong or when something is not as good as it should be. I hate that. I want people to see him in his best light all the time. So I think I've said that since the very beginning, even well before co-directing and all that. It's just my job is to make David look good.
Yeah, sure.
Whether it's good sound or good lighting or good props or good scripts. So yeah, I do a little bit of everything. What
part of your job do you find the most satisfying? Is it to put together the opening VT or the lighting design or the design?
What's VT?
VT, so the opening video.
Oh, video. What's VT stand for?
Video transmission.
I
think. I'm pretty sure that is that a British thing? Maybe I didn't know that.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. You hadn't heard that before. Yeah, which part of it?
I don't know technical stuff, so I'm a hack. Literally, I'm a hack. It's like I can design some kind of lighting, but I don't know what I'm doing. I can't program lights on a board. But I know how to talk to a lighting programmer and say, give me 5 seconds of fade here and start from here, pan left, and I can do that, and I can give me some warm colors, but it's all, I'm a hack.
Fair enough.
They jokingly called it a few years ago an HAC, hack, which is a Homer approved cue.
That's brilliant.
Because there was a time when I was getting into the lighting design, 15 years ago, just because I was I loved lighting, that I would work on some lighting, and then the guys would do something, and Dave would automatically give a note make sure Homer sees it. And I think it was annoying the lighting guys because they're like, we can't do anything without him seeing it,
Yeah.
So it became all right, Homer likes it, David's gonna like it. It's a hack, Homer approved cue. So, I digressed again. What were we talking about?
I was asking what part of your job now you find most satisfying. You love learning new things.
Yes.
Don't you?
Every time I do something, I try to learn something new.
Because you've got an enormous broad skill set, actually, haven't you, compared to most human beings in terms of
every time I have every time I'm given a project, even if it's similar to something I did last week, this time I'm going to try a different way of doing it, or I'm going to look up, hey, there's a filter I've never used, let's play with that filter this time in the video, or maybe try a brand new program to do something. So I try to not repeat myself. I try to improve with every time I do something, and not just do it the same way I did it last week. So, some satisfying things. I can go back in time a little bit. You were talking about the opening video.
Yes.
That was a fun thing because.
So this is the Live the Impossible.
Yes. So
opening video.
David wanted to do an opening thing that kind of tied in this Live the Impossible theme that he was creating, and he typed it out one day and he handed it to me and said, just leave it in front of your keyboard and just look at it and just dream about it. Let it inspire you over time. So this little sentence of, first I was born, all that. First I was born. And
First you're born, yeah.
First you're born, and then people tell you can't do things, and then my father. That was all written on a thing. And I forgot what motivated, but one day I said, I don't know if I said or David said, I said, let's record your voice saying that and put it in the show so we can at least have it as a voiceover to open the show. So
I love his voice in that video, actually. That's really interesting.
Good. Thanks. I don't know why I'm saying thanks. It's his voice. I just pushed record. But so he recorded it and we put it at the top of the show. I think we were in the process of just starting to create all the new stuff. So it was like the start of the new show that you know of now. So we put it in the show, and after a couple days, we're both agreed that it was a lot of talking in just darkness because we had no picture. So I told him, leave me alone tomorrow, the next day. I'm going to create a video to play that show. So the day before, I quickly storyboarded. I wrote the script down on a notebook, and I quickly storyboarded like what images popped in my head. First you're born. I envisioned like that point of view of a baby first opening their eyes, and it's all blurry and blown out, and then it comes into focus, and you're seeing the ceiling. And I was inspired by like movies like Tree of Life by is that Darren Aronofsky?
Not sure.
No, Terrence Malick. Tree of Life, shot by the amazing 3-time Academy Award winning Emmanuel Lubezki, and he has shots of like reflections on the ceiling from like a glass of water on the table, the sunlight bouncing off of it. So I had all these visions like that, and in like The Revenant and Tree of Life, he has amazing. Tree of Life? He has amazing shots looking upward through the pine trees and the camera slowly rotating. So if you remember that shot in the opening movie where you're looking up to the trees and slowly rotating?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a direct steal of Emmanuel Lubezki's shot from Tree of Life, which is in the trailer, of looking up to the pine trees and the camera rotating. So
right.
I wanted him to see the show and go, "Whoa, you copied me, thief." So I storyboarded this whole thing. I had the thing with the pencils and like old props, and then the letter. And then my dad left me a note. It said, "Follow your dreams and live the impossible." So the next morning, I grabbed the camera and I went straight to like this park. Just ran out of the car, almost left it running, found some trees, went up, pointed the camera up, and just shot like 5 takes of just holding the camera and rotating it. And then I remember going to the museum and grabbing some props from the Albo collection and just setting them up like in some old nondescript props that are just like metal, so it could be from the 50s. Setting it on a table, just bouncing a light off a piece of foam core behind it. I remember grabbing some balloons, trying to shoot balloons for the birthday, because he talks about on my 10th birthday.
And there's the candles being blown out as
yes.
well, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember running to the supermarket saying, "Do you have a cake that has nothing on it? It's just white." I can give you a cake before we put the icing on. Okay. So I got the cake, got some candles, got some balloons. I remember, it was 2 hours before showtime. I'm like having a friend hold the balloon out the backstage door. I'm trying to take a picture of it blowing in the wind, and this didn't work, but I had to have a shot. 10 minutes before the show started, I believe it's when I finished that video. This is all shot on the same afternoon, edited the same afternoon, threw some music on it, and we played it for that show. And so for those 2 shows that night, I saw 1 day's worth of work on screen with that voiceover, and it was super satisfying. It wasn't the perfect video. It was super satisfying. And then the next 2 days, I reshot. I got better balloons. The shot with the balloons. You see like 10 balloons out of focus in a black void. That's in the meet and greet hallway.
Is it really?
I just put them all there. Put a light behind it. I had someone like waft a cardboard and have them just move a little bit, and I just kind of lean and shot with the reflections. That's me blowing out the candle while holding the camera, so that when the cake candles go out, that's me. And it's harder to blow out those candles than you think. So I had to bring a friend in to blow in from one side, and so that
listen to the detail. This is what I was talking about.
Well, the candles, I remember wanting the candles to be a metaphor for like snuffing out your dreams, right?
Yeah.
So that's what that's for. So by the end of that week, 3 days later, I had pretty much a video you see now.
Yeah.
I just shot with my DSLR, Canon 7D, not even full HD, and just pretty much hasn't changed since then.
Tell me how David Copperfield, the man, has changed from when you first met him to the David of today.
Not much has changed as far as it's, the same things excite us. It's that attention to detail. What's changed is more on my side. I've changed how I perceive how he works, because, he has a great gut instinct. When he knows something's wrong or something doesn't feel right, sometimes it's hard to communicate it, but he's like, that's not right. The way that illusion's going, there's something wrong. And everyone else in the room, including me up till a few years ago, would be like, what's wrong with it? The people are applauding. It looks fine. Well, let's move on to something else. It's like, no, something's wrong. The music, or there's something wrong. And I've learned in the last couple years to not disagree with him. I might not know the answer, but at least I can go, let me figure this out. Even if I think he's wrong. And after watching it and getting the initial emotion out of the way, I realized he's right. There's something wrong here. This is not as good as it can be. And he's like that with everything, and that's why his stuff's so good. And that's why it's at the level where everything we do is at well past the level of where most people would stop. Most people would stop and go, this is good, we're fine, let's go get a beer at the bar.
Is that when your work begins?
That's when we're just getting started.
Wow.
Just getting started. And it was tough, because for my first, 15, 20 years, I go, it's fine, what are we doing? We're wasting our time. Why are we even doing this? This is it's good, and then now I'm really seeing it. And I'm seeing when something's wrong, like, you're right. And if I don't know why he's right, I'll do what I can to figure it out. And he's generally always correct. Something was wrong, because he has a great gut feeling. And now that I'm sort of like in his same frame of mind, I'm now passing it along to the next person. So now the stage manager might come by and be like, well, it's fine. Why are we changing this? This is a waste of time. They're like, just wait. Let's figure this out. There's something wrong. And that stage manager might be like, well, this is a waste of time. David's wrong. It's like, and I'll be like, he's not wrong. If he has a feeling that something's wrong, there's a reason for it. There's spidey senses are going off. And that's when we dig deep and we look at it from different angles. We look, and 99.9% of the time he is right. Something was just off, and we fix it. And that's one step in many steps.
Talk to me about when the three of you are together. Let's say when you were creating the alien routine is an amazing example, because it's a really long part of the show. When the three of you get together in a room and you're discussing an element of that, I hope you don't mind me saying this. I can imagine with that routine there was probably a fair amount of different views on it, and probably things, because nothing's ever been done like it before.
Yeah, and still work in progress.
Yeah.
Just before I came here, I was reviewing a revised script of the whole thing. Yep.
Yeah.
And a whole new plan of a whole new angle that from another point of view. I mean, it's not done yet. It's did you see it when you saw it in November? Had you seen it
Oh, I've seen it lots of times. I even remember seeing it before the aliens spoke, and very early days when correct me if I'm wrong, I think some of the early props was that the Death Saw clock
Yes,
that was on the stage?
that was pre-hourglass. We had the Death Saw clock
was
on
it the
stage.
table for the head mover had been, I don't know if it had been sort of painted or
I
something?
think we just put we did a new version of it with a little detail. You see that little detail at the beginning when we first pull the cloth off that table?
I've missed that. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
That prop has a big lid on the front,
Right.
and it's picked up and placed behind.
Oh.
And then they pull the cloth off. Then that moves back and forth, and you see it move back and forth through the table.
Amazing.
Very tricky.
There's an amazing detail.
So it looks like you're looking all the way through at this lid sliding back and forth.
So can I ask, is there another detail like this when he vanishes, where the cloth drops to the table and you see the cloth down the back of the table?
Yes.
It's incredible. I noticed and was like, oh my god, that's the most amazing detail.
You probably, when we were starting to get that illusion in, I remember we had just this foam puppet that was just a study, like a character study. We just rolled that out on a table and sat it next to him, and David just talked to it, just to get used to talking to something. And it wasn't doing anything. It had no lines. He had no explanation for it. It was just there.
Yeah.
So we just piecemeal pieces of that effect in. I don't know if you saw a version where there was no spaceship.
Yes, I did see it about a spaceship. Yeah.
Where it was just a video of a little ship coming in.
Yeah.
That was my drawing, a sketch that I colorized in Photoshop, put a star background behind it, and using Photoshop flares and animating them in Final Cut Pro, animated headlights flashing. So when the ship appeared, it was just a little sketch basically coming in from the edge of the screen, just sitting in the corner. That was just a drawing.
Amazing. May I ask, and I'm only guessing, but as a magician and someone who can see how original that routine is that the thing you three have worked on that has caused the most conflict between you?
No, I don't think it's no different than if we worked on a card trick.
Interesting.
The conflict's always just, I don't even know if it's conflict. We always have points of view between Chris, I, and David. We have 3 overlapping points of view, but they're coming from lots of different angles. And most of the time, it's only there to elevate the trick and make it better. And we rarely provide opinion to take it in the wrong direction. It's to make it better.
Yes.
No matter what we're inputting. So, but that is probably, we've been working on that effect since like 2011. That's how long we've been working in the Blue Illusion. And we're still, literally, I was reading a script today with hundreds of changes.
Yes.
Because it's, and David will admit, he knows how to do the magic and he knows how to tell the little stories, but this Blue Illusion is a short film, and that's not his expertise. So, he thought he had a story figured out. We put it in. We've changed it 50 times. We've got input from amazing writers. Frank Darabont rewrote our script at one point.
Wow, Shawshank Redemption
yes.
guy. Yeah, amazing.
Yes.
Green Mile, everything.
And that's a great story. It just for another time, but the Frank Darabont David story it'll bring you to tears. It's a beautiful story, but it compelled Frank Darabont to rewrite our entire Blue script from scratch at a time when he had thrown away his computer because he was done with writing.
Wow.
He was so inspired by David that he said, I'm going to rewrite not rewrite it like it's trash, but
he's going to have his own go at it.
I'm going to have his own go at it.
Wow.
And he's super nice. He's really wonderful. So
that's incredible.
And there are maybe out of that rewrite, there's probably, let's say that rewrite had 50 changes in it. There's probably a good 25 of them in the show that you saw.
Yeah.
So
this is a deeper question. The world has changed a lot from when you were around in the early 90s, where you just do a show and the audience will clap and that'll be it. Today there are reviews left online. And when the Alien first went into the show, I see now people love it, but in the early days there was some people saying online on reviews they didn't like that bit of the show, they didn't get it. How hard is that for you guys to deal with something? Do you just ignore it when you're in that early stage of developing, or can it be quite destructive sometimes? Does it ever make you go, well, maybe we should scrap this idea altogether? How do you guys deal with that?
I ignored it. I know we saw it, and I ignored it. Sometimes David shows me something, and I'll be like, we're doing the right thing. We're doing what we believe is right.
Yes.
And we also know it's a work in progress. This is at that point when I think, we had the Alien in the show and active enough where people could start talking about it. I knew that we weren't even close, that we had a long way to go. So
how many years is it now? It's 3 or 4 years, isn't it?
Well, like I said, we started designing it like 2011.
Wow.
2012 is when I designed first the drawings of the spaceship, and it took 3 years to make. And then like a year and a half just to implement it into the show. But like I said, remember, when we were first developing the character, the animatronic character, it took a year and a half or so to design and build that complicated of a mechanism. So in the meantime, he had the foam puppet on stage, so you get used to talking to it. And then we were reviewing scripts, and then we were constantly going back and forth with the builder on the mechanics of the animation and how the antenna worked and how the eyelids blinked and texture of the skin. And then there was a whole, it took us a long time to figure out how to make it walk. Because what's amazing with this, this alien is, if this were in a movie, it would have a dozen cables coming out of it to puppeteers just off camera.
Yeah.
And they would just keep the camera off, or going through a hole in a table or something. Our alien's self-contained. It walks on a table. Somehow you can place it on a stool, and it talks and it kicks and it moves and it continues. It gets produced in a box that's shown empty in the middle of the audience. In most animatronic aliens in a movie, it's on, you do a take, and then you reset, and you fix things, and you do a take, and reset, and you fix things, and then maybe there's different puppets to use for different parts, for different scenes. This is one alien in the middle of the audience, on stage, visible and active for 25 minutes of a 35-minute routine. That's really difficult.
Yeah.
Really difficult. So, it took a long time to develop not making Blue look like what it is. It has to just disappear into a character.
Yeah.
And be, a two-person act on stage. And that took a lot of time and experimentation, and slowly, I wish I could be almost nice to go back over the last 5 years. Is it 5, 6? It's more than that now, isn't it? It's like 6 years.
8 years.
8 years.
It was 2011.
And just see okay, this is what the show this is what Blue looked like in 2013, 14, 15. His voice changed 4 times.
Name changed. It was Attila. It was Attila, wasn't it?
Attila, and it used to have an English voice at one point. And then it had and at one point, everyone said, why is it's so cute? Why doesn't it have a cute little voice like this? It should be cute. Hi, my name is Blue. And eventually we said, okay, let's try it. So we did a cute alien voice, and the audience just fell asleep. Because it's exactly what you expected. A little cute puppet speaking like that, there's no drama.
Yeah.
So, and so David was right. From the beginning, he's wanted it to be a little gruff, and it'll be a little, check it out. And we used to have a really gruff. It used to be like, hey, David, almost like with a cigar, in one hand. But that was a little too much, so now it's a little more kind of in between. It has a little bit of an edge, but it's not exactly what you expect. But you can live with it.
Yeah.
So it's changed. We had a Woody Allen voice at one time, a very New York Woody Allen voice, and it's not easy because every time you change a voice, it's a week of work.
Yeah. Of course it is. Yeah.
It's a week of work, and then and you're doing shows every day, so it's a week of work And then the day you put it in, that's a long day of testing just to get that voice in that show without a mistake. And there's a million mistakes that can happen. There's so many things that can go wrong with that. So it's very difficult to make a change in that. So most of the changes we do for developing change, we try to make the change on David's side, because David can easily change a line.
Yes.
We can easily change a sequence, not easily change a sequence, but Blue can't change his line without work.
There's obviously another side to David's sort of world, which the public never get to see, but the occasional lucky person does, which is the museum which he has. I heard a rumor that in recent years it's gone through quite a big expansion.
Yes.
Have you been all over this as well?
Yes.
Can you share with our listeners anything about this exciting place that's
well, we
happened
took
in the
half
last few
our
years?
warehouse and converted it into a giant museum. And David basically laid out this plan, and then he put it in front of me, and I said, well, let's move this here, let's tweak it a little bit. I designed where all the lighting goes, and then slowly, little by little, we've had props moved into the spaces, and I would go in and then tweak them, and then eventually light them. And it's, I forgot it. There's how many hundreds of thousands of dollars for the lighting up there. There's every single thing. It's not like the kind of museum where there's just the lighting is just like a wash on the wall or just a downpool in the corner. Every single light is like, I want it to be cinematic. So I wanted, if there's a Chung-Ling Soo mannequin with an outfit, I don't want it just lit from the front like it's lit with a flash. I have it lit from 3/4 back light, so just the edges of the material are lit, and the front's a little bit dark, so it has character.
Yeah.
So I tried to light the museum so that it felt like a movie set, and there's just so much in there, and that David's so passionate about the everything in there and the story. It's not just a museum; it's an experience. He recreated Tannen's magic shop. I don't know if you've heard what you've heard of it, but the dream Tannen's with carpeted floor, and every shelf has a hidden lighting, and all the props are super nice.
Yeah.
But it opens with a music cue and opens with a story. You walk into a room, it's dark, and when you walk into the room, there's a little magic counter, and it's lit up. It's his first Macy's magic counter from New York, where he used to go buy magic as a kid. And they tell the story about the gentleman behind the table that would do a little coin trick on the wooden board.
The coin disappearing under the dollar.
And how it was like Baryshnikov dancing. He did it so many times. It was so effortless. And how he came to visit David in his later years, backstage during the show, and he did that, and he could barely walk, and he pulled that out, and all of a sudden he was Baryshnikov again, and he wowed the entire crew with this one trick, and then walked away, and David will never forget that. So he tells that story, and then he talks about Tannen's and this dream place, and the music swells, and the lights glow, and you realize you're standing now in the middle of Tannen's from New York.
Wow.
Like if it were in 1960. And we just did a tour with, and Jamie Ian Swiss was there, and he was just in tears.
Really?
Yes. And Chris was like, I knew it'd get you. There's always that one guy that's like, because a lot of people, that's their childhood.
Yeah.
When the lights came up, Jamie Ian Swiss is just like, oh my God.
Literally like a time machine.
It's taking them right back to why they're a magician, and it just took them back in time. Amazing. And that's just all David, just wanting people to experience what he felt as a kid walking in there.
Yeah.
And seeing this walls of magic and just the mystery behind the counters, and so, and then you go through many rooms, and the Houdin room and the Houdini room all have similar experiences, and it's just great how he wants it to not just be like a bunch of stuff. He wants this, all stuff has weight and importance and a story to it, and that's what makes it special.
Yeah. What are your future aspirations? I mean, to me, I look at you and go, it's been amazing, everything you've done and all the things you've got to work on and the life you have. Is there anything else you want to do?
I would love to, like the next thing I do, I want to write and direct a film. I don't want to just shoot it. I want to actually write it and film it, because I'd love to eventually write and direct my own films, like nowhere as good as, but like a Christopher Nolan, or where I'm in full creative, where I'm working on my own vision, and I have a long way to go, and I don't even know how to write, but I think that's what I want to do next. So it's like I'm trying not to do any projects that would waste not waste my time, but I'm lucky. I'm in a great position that I'm working creatively for David, and he encourages me and gives me the time to pursue like the stuff I love, which he knows helps him at the same time. So I would really love to work on a script. I have some ideas. They're sitting there as just random notes, like bullet points. They're not outlines. They're not scripts yet. But I'd love to write something that I'm proud of, and then shoot it. Because I don't want to just do project for the sake of projects. Sure. Every time I do a project, I want to learn from it. Did you see the Art of Play? I think I did last.
Yeah, the 1 minute trailer.
Yes, that was so fun to work on. Dan and Dave came to me and was like,
if you haven't seen it, I really recommend it. It's on Vimeo, I think, isn't it? The Art of Play trailer.
Art of Play trailer, yes. And there's two versions. If you go to my Vimeo page, vimeo.com/Homer.
Just to warn you, though, if you go to Homer's Vimeo page, you will lose an evening of your life, because everything on it is amazing to watch. So
they're all short, so
yeah.
But that's how early I got onto Vimeo. It was I got vimeo.com/Homer. That's my URL.
You were there right at the beginning.
I was right at the beginning. Dan and Dave turned me onto it back in like 2008 or something. Yeah, they contacted me last summer and it was like, we have this idea. We want a short 50-second film for our website showcasing our showroom. And, can't pay much, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I looked, and Adam Rubin, Adam Rubin?
Yeah.
Amazingly creative and wonderful person, created this nice, like, synopsis or an outline treatment, basically. And I looked at that, I'm like, there's no way, this is perfect. I can learn so much doing this. It's so different. It's like, it's not magic. It's spinning tops and puzzles, and how do you make that come to life? How do you shoot that? It's like, it's the perfect challenge, and it was like amazing. That was such a fun project to do.
Like you said, it sums up everything we've just talked about, actually. Attention to detail, all the different skills you've learned.
And I did it because I knew I would do things that I'd never done before. I rented a motion control track so I could do repeated moves, because I knew I wanted to have like the little robot cube disassemble itself in one continuous shot. So the only way to do that is with a motion control rig. So I rented a little 2-axis, it can track, pan and tilt repeatedly, so then I could do motion passes with the camera and assemble them in post. So, and I can also do time lapse. So I can have, when the robot turns its head or its arms or its feet, that's done frame by frame. Just click, turn, but between every click, the camera moves in a certain increment.
Yeah.
So you get this camera movement. And then I worked on some other things, editing-wise, that I've never done before. So that was a great learning process. And I took the treatment, and originally they wanted just to shoot in the showroom. And I kind of wanted to expand it out of the showroom and do parallel cutting between two different entities. So I added the forest element. Have you seen that version, the long version?
I don't think so, actually. No, I didn't realize there was two versions.
Yeah, there's a director's cut that features what's happening in the showroom, intercut with related stuff happening in a forest.
Ah.
So things that happen in the forest trigger things that happen in the showroom. And that's just something I wanted to do. I've never done before, and I love when like Luc Besson does that in a movie, or I don't know what directors do that, but where they cut between two similar scenes, or two not similar scenes, but they're related.
Yes.
So one might be a dance, one might be someone being murdered or something, and I love that. So that was my first test of that. So that was my last like real project, and I have another project coming up that's a secret project. That it's funny because I wanted to bring this up because I was just listening to Richard Wiseman's podcast, I had no idea how funny he was.
He's a funny guy.
Oh my God. It's like, I just could listen to him just talk. I was laughing out loud in my car. Because I don't really know. I met him once. And he's a professor. I mean, how funny could he be? Right? And I listen to that podcast. I'm like, this guy's funny. I'm gonna be the most boring podcast in the world. But we're secretly working on a project. But
oh, amazing! This has been absolutely amazing. Honestly, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm honored because I literally listened to like 5 or 6 of your podcasts. I'm honored to be in this company of the Darren Browns and the Ben Earls and Richard Wiseman. Like, to be in this company is really flattering. Thank you.
I'm absolutely honoured to have you here on it. So honestly, thank you so much. I can't wait to see what you do next. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, I hope that has whet your appetite to go and find out a little bit more about Homer. It's one thing to hear him talk about his work, it's quite another thing to see it with your own eyes. Go and take a look at his Vimeo channel and his Instagram. He is an amazingly artistic magician, and it was a huge honour to have him here on the Magicians Podcast. But as you know, this is just week 1 of a trio of incredible interviews, a look behind the scenes at the David Copperfield brand. Next week is really special and also very different. David's executive producer, you all know him, Chris Kenner, is going to be right here on the Magicians Podcast for a fantastically interesting and outspoken podcast. You are not going to regret investing an hour of your time in this next week. Chris doesn't hold back. It's a fantastic one, which I know you're going to love. That's June the 14th. Chris Kenner is right here on the Magicians Podcast. I'll see you next week. Have a great one. Take care. Bye-bye.